Batya, what's on your radar?
At 6:34 p.m. on Friday evening, journalist Matt Taibbi began a lengthy Twitter thread, which he titled The Twitter Files. Twitter's new owner and CEO, Elon Musk, had given Taibbi access to a huge trove of documents related to Twitter's suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story, after Taibbi agreed to certain conditions. What Taibbi found was further detail about a story we largely know. Twitter knowingly and actively suppressed the New York Post's reporting on the laptop. Taibbi reported that both the Trump campaign and the Biden campaign reached out regularly to ask Twitter to investigate and remove posts. But when it came to the Hunter Biden laptop story, Twitter went into overdrive, falsely categorizing the story as, quote, hacked materials early on to justify suppressing it and then locking prominent accounts that shared it and even barring the story from being shared in DMs. But perhaps the most surprising thing Taibbi reported was that the government was not behind the suppression of the laptop story. Here's the crucial quote from Taibbi. Although several sources recalled hearing about a general warning from federal law enforcement that summer about possible foreign hacks, there's no evidence that I've seen of any government involvement in the laptop story. This was not, however, the message Elon Musk took from the Twitter files. In response to a tweet claiming that Taibbi had shown that the Biden team colluded with Twitter before the election, Elon Musk tweeted, "Correct." But this is exactly what Taibbi said he hadn't found in the Twitter files, or at least to the extent that the Biden team, quote, colluded with Twitter, so had the Trump team. But the idea that Biden and even the government or the deep state was involved in the Hunter Biden cover-up seems to be the message many have wrongly taken from Taibbi's reporting following Musk's lead. The most shared tweet in Taibbi's thread lists a few tweets from the Biden team asking Twitter to review, with someone from Team Twitter responding, quote, handled these. Many are sharing this as a smoking gun of sorts. But if you put the links Team Biden was asking Twitter to review into a site that archives deleted tweets, as Christian Schneider did, you can see that one of them is a photo of the Biden family, and the rest are pictures of Hunter Biden's genitals, which we will spare you having to look at. Not quite the smoking gun it's being touted as. And yet, to Elon Musk, this was proof of the highest form of corruption. As he put it in a tweet responding to those examples, quote, if this isn't a violation of the Constitution's First Amendment, what is? I'm sorry, Elon, but not this. The Biden campaign actually comes off better than I would have expected. Of course, more might come out, but for now, it seems like they didn't ask Twitter to suppress the laptop story. Twitter did that all on its own. In other words, the Twitter files was just a more detailed version of a story we know well. Twitter worked very hard to suppress a story that Twitter employees thought made their preferred candidate look bad. Can a private company violate your First Amendment rights? Can a private company that is used by just 1/5 of Americans, where only 13% of Americans get their news, where only 17% of Republicans spend any time at all, where 97% of the content is produced by the top 25% of users, really sway an election? I'm skeptical at best. How many of you know someone who would have voted differently based on the contents of that laptop? Such a person is almost impossible to imagine. To be clear, I have no problem with Musk exposing this content, and he could not have chosen a better reporter than Matt Taibbi for his expose. Taibbi is the most nonpartisan journalist out there, someone I strive to be more like every single day. Indeed, few journalists would have made as clear as Taibbi did just what was not in the Twitter files. What the files do show is the same egregious behavior we already knew Twitter engaged in. They revealed how deeply captured the company has been by the left. And this understandably makes conservatives see red, but not everything that's unfair is unconstitutional or a threat to democracy. It can both be the case that Elon Musk is righting a grievous injury that's been done to high-profile conservatives in suppressing their journalism and content, and also be the case that Musk is inflating the importance of his work in an attempt to make Twitter more profitable. As Elon Musk well knows, the Biden election team could not have violated our First Amendment rights because it was not functioning as government. Neither could Twitter, a private company that hosts relatively few Americans in its purported public square. Again, Elon Musk knows this. He clearly did not feel he was violating Kanye West's First Amendment rights when he booted him for tweeting a swastika, which, by the way, is constitutionally protected. But there is a threat to Twitter being free, and it's Musk himself. As I've discussed at length here, Musk has extensive economic entanglements with a regime deeply hostile to America. So much so that he has closed his eyes to the genocide being carried out by the Chinese Communist Party in the Xinjiang region, where Musk infamously built a showroom for Tesla. He's also bowed to pressure to store data collected by his electric cars in mainland China, where it is subject to CCP surveillance. The most important question for Musk is, will freedom of speech on Twitter take a backseat to Musk's allegiance to China like Uyghur lives have? And this is the precise question he and his team have done everything to avoid answering. On Saturday night, we got a front row seat to how unwilling Musk is to address this point. Musk participated in a Twitter Spaces chat that had over 100,000 listeners when I joined, who were encouraged to submit questions via DM. I sent mine over to multiple different addresses. This is what I wrote. I'm wondering about China. Musk's other businesses are very, very reliant on the largesse of the CCP to the extent of building a showroom for Tesla in Xinjiang. I love what he's doing with Twitter and super admire him for picking this fight for free speech, but I'm also worried about the influence the CCP has on him. In China, his record on free speech isn't good. What is he willing to say about that, about making sure Twitter won't be subject to pressure from the CCP? None were willing to pose my question, and the two times China came up during the discussion in the context of free speech and the recent protests, Musk was quickly rescued from having to address the question by sycophantic moderators who deemed the questions irrelevant and quickly changed the subject. Take a listen to this.
Elon, you said some really admirable things about freedom of speech and your commitment to it and its role in the future of humanity. You didn't answer the question about supporting protesters in China and Iran. Is there freedom of speech for Chinese people important
it's already
for the future of humanity?
in China. Just so you know, like Twitter is inaccessible in China. You need a VPN, so it's kind of a pointless question.
So you don't think making it accessible for Chinese or Iranian
It doesn't
protesters?
matter.
No, it's not Elon. It's not Elon blocking it.
So the person who asked that question, Tommy Vietor of Crooked Media, says he was kicked out of the Twitter space right after. And his question was a good one. The fact that China bans Twitter is hardly relevant. A crusader on behalf of free speech should be able to say a kind word for China's protesters. More importantly, the question is not what Musk is doing for China's citizens, but what Musk is going to do to protect the speech of American citizens from the Chinese Communist Party. And that is something Musk simply will not answer.
Very wise words, Batya. I particularly like how you point out the First Amendment issues here at stake. Not quite First Amendment issues. I totally agree with you that it's great that Elon Musk is shedding more light. The more we can understand about what happened with the Hunter Biden laptop story debacle, the better. It was clearly bad. But does it violate the First Amendment? Honestly, you'd have a better case that the Trump people asking Twitter to take stuff down violates the First Amendment because they were actually the people in charge of the government at the time. Now, in reality, everyone makes content moderation requests, and I think people in government, it depends how they're making it. It depends if it's accompanying some threat. Is publicly the government figure saying, this company should be regulated or banned or broken up in case they give me what I want, and then they're also asking them to do something. That might be a First Amendment issue, but clearly that wasn't the case at the time with the Biden people. So it was weird to see people immediately go to that as if they haven't read the First Amendment. Like, it's very clearly about government speech. But this could be bad. Like, this could all be bad without it being specifically about the First Amendment, which I agree that it is. And kudos to Elon and to Matt Taibbi, who you rightly point out is a terrific journalist. I wish they had released this in some format other than Twitter threads, because I don't know about you. I had so much trouble following that, and then it breaks halfway through.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Matt Taibbi wrote on Substack that he had to agree to certain conditions, I'm pretty sure that was one of them. I mean, I'm just guessing here. He says he will on Substack explain what those conditions were, but for now I feel pretty certain that was one of them, because he is he's really good about Substack. He's really connected to the audience there and to his readership there, and the idea that he would have, Musk is working really hard to get to make that a profitable business, right? So I feel that will probably come out as one of the conditions. I'm eager to hear what the other ones were, but I just have to say, again, he could not have chosen a better journalist than Matt Taibbi. He really is one of the best journalists of my generation, and I admire him so much. And I know that you're going to be talking a little bit about that in your radar.
Yep. Stay tuned for that.